today we're going to take a break from our case study series, and we're going to talk about the changes that happened in the first quarter, new hardware that's being announced, and even some new software that's coming out. And so I'm really excited to be able to share this with you, and we'll go ahead and get started if you're ready.
Yeah, let's go.
Perfect. So the first thing you probably have already seen, if you're on this webinar, you probably already gotten the announcement, but we want to make this official. We have the new BR Mini 5G, and you might think, oh, what's new? It has Wi-Fi now, and so when we released the BR1 Mini 5G, it actually became incredibly popular. I mean, more popular than we thought it would. You have the BR1 Pro 5G, gigabit capacity, and when we launched the Mini 5G, there was just the density of the antennas on the back, and just trying to make a nice 5G adapter with that Mini 5G, and it just became such a popular hotspot solution. Low power, small footprint, not a lot of Ethernet ports, and it just blew up in popularity. And one of the big feedback requirements was, hey, can we have Wi-Fi? This would make a great Wi-Fi hotspot. And it does. It makes an amazing Wi-Fi hotspot. And so we're really excited to announce that we have the BR1 Mini 5G with Wi-Fi. It's running our 5GN chipset, and which is a global chipset. So you have that available globally. And you can enjoy a compact all-in-one device. It simplifies installation and management, very low cost solution. And then, and it has the integrated Wi-Fi. So you have these external SMA or RPSMA for Wi-Fi and SMA for cellular. It still does not have GPS. If you want GPS, you need to go to a transit or the BR1 Pro 5G will have the GPS for you. So there are some sacrifices. I believe it's 400 megabits per second of throughput router. It's not a gigabit. And it doesn't have GPS. So if you need that full gigabit capacity, if you're playing around with really high speed, ultra capacity networks, then you want to you still want to stay with the BR1 Pro 5G. But if you're looking for just a really reliable broadband-like replacement router that's small, the BR1 Mini 5G with Wi-Fi is going to be the kit. And Travis, you probably have more details about customer demand on this one and the popularity of the product, because I know you're talking to these customers every day.
Yeah, I mean, we knew day one when we launched the original version that a lot of people were going to want Wi-Fi with it, right? And so, we launched without it because that was the fastest way to go. And like you said, we got it sorted out now, and so now we've got both. And so, yeah, that demand just built and built. The more and more people saw the device without Wi-Fi, of course, more wanted with Wi-Fi yet. So it's that kind of IoT or failover or more simplified requirements 5G router. Like you said, it's a good hotspot type device. It's super reliable, super rugged. It's going to work anywhere you put it, basically.
Exactly. And another thing that's really cool about it is, if you haven't heard about the Antenna Max, we have the Antenna Max, and the Antenna Max will hold a BR1 Mini 5G perfectly. And so you can hook the Antenna Max with the BR1 Mini 5G and just have 12 volt or PoE input, and mount this to the roof of your vehicle, mount it outside your building, and just run Ethernet to a PoE switch. And you're able to get that antenna outside for a fraction of the cost. And I was just talking to a customer yesterday with unparalleled scalability. So if there's a new 5G module, you don't need to buy a whole new dome that's $2,000. You can just buy the latest 5G Mini and throw it in your Antenna Max, and you're done. So for less than $1,000, every 2 or 3 years, you can have the latest and fastest 5G for your building or your vehicle, or whatever mobile application that you might have, or even fixed wireless applications. And so this really creates the ability to offer, sub $1,500 first time cost and sub $1,000 recurring, to keep the latest and fastest 5G for your building or vehicle. And simplifies the installation, because all you need is either 12 volt or PoE, and then you'll be able to hook this right to your building and or vehicle. And so that that combination of the BR1 Mini 5G with the Antenna Max just creates an incredibly powerful hotspot solution for mobility.
Yeah, it's just a heck of a value, right? It's the BR1 Mini has always been our value leading product, and that's what the 5G version continues to be. And there's always going to be a great place for that.
And next exciting announcement and news. If you are US, I know that we serve a global marketplace here, and there's people from all over the world joining our webinars. But US, we now have the 5GK chipset. So if you keep in line with our product lines, the very first 5G was the 5GD. So if you have a product that's the Max HD4 5GD or the BR2, I don't think the BR2 had a 5GD. I think it came out after that. But the Dome 5GD was definitely available. So if you have a 5GD, that's our very first gen 5G chipset. Then we went to the 5GH, which is one of the best chipsets we made and supported 2x2 MIMO, which was awesome. So you could do AD. And then we went to 5GN, and now we're at 5GK, which is the X65 chipset. And it is Telit, which is a European manufacturer. So it helps us maintain FIPS and NIST 889, but also a little bit higher performance than the 5G. If you have a 5GD or 5GH in your SKU, your product SKU, you could definitely upgrade to the 5GN or the 5GK and get increased performance and stability. But this really brings a modern chipset for the US market, and we're really pleased to announce that. And if you wanted to play with it, these are now available for pre-order and order. The 5GK modem is a little bit faster speeds. It's a wider range of improved coverage and increases downlink throughput, along with dual X65 5G with like AT&T and Verizon. You're able to, or T-Mobile and Verizon, you're able to increase download and upload throughput with bonding. So, increasing that reliability of the bandwidth on your networks. And I believe, Travis, these are available now for order, correct? I mean,
They are, yep.
Okay.
They are, absolutely.
And so, yeah, definitely reach out to your partner, or if you're a partner, reach out to your distributor, and you can get pricing and availability of these products.
Yeah, we just keep moving forward on the 5G generation. So these are,
yeah, and it's kind of like a cell phone, right? And I tell people this all the time, like, how do I know which one to get? It's we got to keep up. We got to keep up with the latest trends and the latest technologies. And I get a lot of feedback. Hey, why aren't you doing X75 or X85? And we got to make sure we maintain standards and carrier certification, and those processes take time. So Intel releases a new processor, then they get it all certified. They build the motherboards, then they work with the manufacturer to get those processors put into laptops or into servers. Same process happens here. We get the latest, the new chipsets come out. They got to go through certification. They got to go through chip manufacturers. Then we got to get the contract manufacturers with the boards, and that process takes time. And so we try to stay up. But every year or so, you're going to see these newer chipsets come out, and I'm really ecstatic that Peplink keeps up with that. There are a lot of 5G manufacturers. They'll just put 5G, and you don't know what 5G you're getting. And with Peplink, we have that in the SKU, so you know what you're getting, the 5GH and the N and the D or the K. And so the ability to stay up to date, and you don't need to buy the newest one. I mean, we have early adopters that have it, but if you're running 5GN, wait till the next generation. You'll be fine. But like I said, if you're running 5GD or 5G H and you want to play around with a little bit faster carrier aggregation on the downlink, really you should try the 5G and 5GK. It's pretty impressive. We've been having a lot of fun testing it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Peter. It's a lot like the phones, right? If you don't buy a new phone every year, you're not missing much. But you wait more than 2 years, you start noticing that pretty quick. And I think that's very similar here. But yeah, the newest generation definitely getting great feedback on that. And those that have, I love your helping you achieve your mission tagline, Peter, because the broadcasters, those folks that have that really aggressive mission, those are the folks that are going to benefit the most from an upgrade like this. And
exactly. Next, we have the enterprise router and aggregation hub on steroids. If you have not seen the details of this router, be prepared to have your mind blown. We got challenged by a few of our larger enterprises that 10 gigabit bonding was a requirement. It was not an option, it was a requirement. And Peplink said, we'll see your 10 gigs and raise you 30. And they released the B5000. The B5000 is like, it went through a couple different names. So was it EPX Ultimate, SDX Ultimate. And I like that we standardized on the B5000, based kind of building on the success of the 2500 EC. So this is the B5000 EC, dual 1 terabyte NVMe storage. Dual 1 terabyte NVMe storage. You can buy it in 2 models, the 40G and the 100G. The 40G has 8 2.5 gig LAN WAN interfaces. You have 2 LAN and 6 WAN by default. 4 10 gig, 10/25. So 10 or 25, SFP plus SFP 28 interfaces. You have 2 LAN on each module and 2 WAN on each module by default. So you have LAN, WAN, WAN, and then 2 40 gig QSFPs. 1 LAN, 1 WAN by default, but fully customizable. So those can be changed to LANs or WANs as you need. So don't worry about the LAN WAN details. That's just the default setting, so that when you're plugging it in to program it, these can be fully customizable based on your needs. It also has 2 USB ports. And if you don't know the power of those USB ports, there's 2 things that I love about these USB ports. One is zero touch provisioning. These are enterprise routers, and you might need to deploy zero touch. You can tether. I just tell a customer, hey, you have an Android phone or a USB hotspot, plug it into the USB port, enable the hotspot, and literally we can bring that router on in control and fully provision it without messing with any of the Ethernet or LAN settings. Program your static IPs, get the trunking all up and running, and deploy. So, and then you can leave it there if you wanted to, and have out of band management if you want. But I love it for the 0-day deployment scenario, and I use it all the time for that. The other thing I like about the USB port is the ability to use it with InTouch. And if you've not learned about InTouch, it is massively powerful. There is a platform out there that charges lots of money, starts with the word open, and they charge a lot of money for out-of-band management tools. Well, you can take our USB port with any Peplink router that has a USB port, and you can plug in a StarTech 16 or 8 port USB to RS-232 and have 8 or 16 RS-232 serial ports, and manage all of your switch environment or your other devices that maybe need RS-232 for management. So using that USB port, you can do zero touch management, and you can also do out of band RS-232 management, built right into InControl with the InTouch platform. And we have an entire video on InTouch. But when you're talking about enterprise at this scale, you're trunking down into some 40 gig router or 100 gig switch, not router, I'm sorry, 40 gig or 100 gig switching platform, which usually is CLI. And so that's what we've been doing. And the ability to have that zero touch and out of band management and provisioning is very powerful. And I cannot say enough good things about it. I don't know, Travis, if you have some other cool stuff that you want to share about this router, but
yeah, I mean, like you said, the USB port, that extra value, I mean, that's not the main show here, but it's so much extra value that you get with it. And it fits in with the environment, right? This is an aggregation device going into a data center. And so, like you said, you're going to have these other devices that you need to console into. And this checks those boxes too. But yeah, I think the main story there is, like you said, we've got customers that have hundreds, thousands of locations, and those, with 5G fixed wireless, they have a lot of bandwidth at those edge sites, and so they need a lot of bonding capacity at the central hub, and that's exactly what these models are here for now.
And so this is a 110 gigabit bonding or stateful throughput router with 30 gigabits of bonding capacity, 4,000 SpeedFusion Pure capable, dual 1 terabyte NVMe's on board for KVM and virtualization. And yeah, and just very powerful. I'm currently in the process of deploying 2 of these as my new BGP hubs. So I've got 4 10 gigabit fiber lines, and then I use them as my edge, my BGP edge. And so those all connect in, and then that goes into my data center, into my core switching stack. And so it allows me to provide incredible throughput. We have another customer that we just upgraded 2,500 ECs to the 5,000 EC, and they noticed an almost 40% improvement of Power BI and applications loading up in their data center. And so they use the 2,500 EC in their data center with a Dell VxRail hyperconverged infrastructure, and we're using 40 gigabit down into the VxRail switches, the Dell switches. And we were doing 10 gigabit because that's what the 2,500 EC supported. And so we upgraded to the 5,000 EC with the 40 gig interfaces, and we're trunking down at the 40 gigabit. And they noticed, without any internet upgrades, without any other upgrades, just going from the 2,500 to the 5,000, everything else the same, they noticed about a 40% improvement in the page loads of their Power BI application that runs in the data center, and SMB traffic was improved as well. And so that extra processor and that extra overhead that you have freedom for SpeedFusion tunnels. And this site they have 50 sites with gigabit broadband services, all terminating at the hub router. And so this gave them a lot of extra bandwidth to be able to process applications and transport with this aggregation hub. And so it's an incredibly powerful router, especially if you're running large workloads, 5G bonding, site-to-site connectivity, and you just need that extra oomph that's provided, because prior to this router, our best is 4 gigabits of bonding throughput. And so I told Peplink we need 10 gigabit, and we got a 30 gigabit bonding hub. So really exciting news there. So here's just some statistics for you. 110 gigabits total throughput, in control management, up to 30 gigabits of VPN throughput, 10, 25, 40, and 100 gigabit interfaces. It's really built for 24/7 uptime, and it empowers enterprise networks and cloud computing, as well as, like I said, that aggregation hub. And there's 2 models. They are not module based. This is not something we can swap these out. Even though they are field replaceable. I mean, like if you had a bad module, we can mail you a new one. They're not swappable. So do not swap these around. The device will not function. So they're designed to be field replaceable modules, but not hot swappable. Next, I am beyond excited to announce, after 2 years of begging and pleading, we now have enterprise switches coming back into the platform. And this is just the first step in this. So we have enterprise access level switches, and I'm going to call them access switches. So these are going to be our first enterprise switches, PoE, very high PoE budget, 740 watts for some of them, 4 10 gigabit SFP plus ports on them. The 24 port has 8 2.5 gigabit interfaces for going to like access points, or even up to like an HD 2 Dome LR or something like that. The 48 has 16 2.5 gigabit interfaces, and then 1 gig interfaces, and then it has the 4 10 gigabit SFPs. So we have the 10 gigabit SFPs, which is really nice add-on. We were struggling with that with the 24 port switches of the past. They only had the 2 ports, so you basically had your uplink and your downlink to stacking. Now we have some extra 10 gigabit interfaces. And then brand new, like this week I think was announced, or last week was announced, the 8 port 10 gigabit switch. I'm actually using it right now in our right there to power our network here. It is the 8. It really should be a 12 port switch, but it's PoE BT, so PoE plus plus, um, 10 gigabit Ethernet, and then 4 10 gigabit SFPs. So we have fiber and Ethernet capabilities on this. And so brand new switch stack. It is something to be aware. A couple notes I'd like to bring up. One, there is currently no UI. And so that people are, that may be buying these and are used to the old Peplink UI. We're working on a completely revamped UI. So it is coming. But these are brand new chipsets, brand new features, enterprise class chips in these things. So we're working on building out that enterprise feature set. You can manage these in control, and you can manage these using the next thing I'll announce in a few minutes. But the other thing too is they default access untagged or access VLAN 1. So if you are buying these switches and you go, why are my VLANs not working? Make sure that you understand these default to access VLAN 1 on all the ports. This is sort of a way to improve security. We had a lot of complaints of the enterprise customers saying we were just trunking all VLANs on the ports. And we were being compared to some of the bigger enterprise switches that default as more of a lockdown state. So this is by design. It is not an accident. And the idea is to increase security, that we're not spamming networks with a bunch of trunked VLANs where you don't need them. And so the idea is you can edit these switches, the switch ports, and then trunk just the VLANs that are needed on those ports. And so it's just a different way of thinking about it, more of an enterprise kind of style design versus kind of a simplistic trunk all design that we were doing previously with the old switches. And you'll hear me refer these as the PLS and the PSWs as the old switches, and the new switches, the PLS series. So if you see me in my YouTube videos or anything like that, I'm talking about the PLS series switches. That's these new chipset switch hardware that we've built. We have two 24-port switches. You'll see we're bringing back the 24-port switch rugged. This is a fanless rugged design, dual power supply capable with the DC power brick. And so if you need to increase power budget or add redundancy, you can do that with the dual power supply support. The 8-port, 24-port, and 48-port are single power supply. So these are access switches, not core switches at this stage. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm very pleased with them. We've upgraded our core infrastructure to them completely. We've also deployed the 10 gigabit switches in a couple environments where we really needed that. I'm also using the 10 gigabit switches in my BGP WAN, handing off to my B5000 as a distribution switch on my WAN edge. So, I bring in my Unity fiber, my Cox fiber, my GRU fiber, my AT&T fiber to 4 separate 10 gigabit switches, and I can break those out into my my dark fiber and then into the B5000s. And so the switches are really nice for that aggregation and WAN edge, as well as for powering APs and devices that need that 10 gigabit interface.
Yeah, that 8-port has the the Type 4 PoE, which we're seeing more and more on the private 5G, on the, even our
Yep.
Dome LR is pretty thirsty on the power side. And so lots of applications that need that extra power output on the PoE side.
I'm demoing private 5G. I'm probably frying my head right now, but I'm demoing private 5G at this at NAB right now. And so I've got a BR1 Mini Pro 5G connecting via 5G SA to this 5G AP, but it's actually it requires PoE++, PoE BT, and it's 10 gigabit. So I plugged it right into the 8-port switch, lit up PoE BT, and came online. The other thing too is if you're playing around with Wi-Fi 7, that also requires PoE BT for that extra radio. So if you don't plug a Wi-Fi 7 device into a PoE+ port, you're not going to be happy with the results. But with the 8-port switch, we can now power Wi-Fi 7 devices and get that BT. So really good for those applications.
Yeah,
okay.
I think the other thing on the switches is just, this as always, like, we launch a few things and people want this and they want that, and there's a lot more coming, right? This is this is a big investment on our side, and that people have been asking us forever, right? It's taken us a long time to get these out, but we're not done. We've got more coming on the features and more coming on the lineup, both at the edge and the core side. So many more switches to come. But Peter, I'll let you show the next aspect of the switches.
So I'm all of this. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This next thing, there once again, I love this about Peplink. I really do. When people go, hey, why do you like Peplink so much? And this next feature is why I love Peplink so much. Everybody I know, every competitor and product line, they're going to these subscription cloud-based connectivity. And so we launched these new switches, and they're cloud only. They're in control managed. And Peplink, in all of their infinite wisdom and glory, said, no, we're not cloud only product. We want to be an everyone product. And so Peplink has launched the switch controller, 8.5.2 firmware, beta right now. It's in beta RC1. I've told RC2 is going to be coming out in a day or two. But in 8.5.2 beta firmware, we now have the switch controller. This allows you to run your network offline, no cloud. So as we go with Speed Fusion being configured via in control or the local UI, we have an AP controller that can manage APs on the in control or the local UI. We now have the ability to manage our switches on the local UI. I have my Transit Pro. If you watched my Switch video, I kind of already shared this. So I've got a Transit Pro. And thank you for M2M and Rising Connections for giving this to me at the summit. That was really neat of them, but because this is a European product. But I got the Max Transit Pro E, and it's connected to my Wi-Fi network. And so I am managing this via in control, but that's just so I can bring it up for you guys. But it has the AP controller, and so we can manage our APs on the network. And then it has the switch controller. And so if you upgrade your switches to the 2.0.2 firmware, and you'll save it as a disk available switch, and then you can ingest this into the controller. And so here's my registered switches, and I've got my 3 switches. I have my 2 ruggeds and my 48 port. And so once you ingest these into the switch controller, you now have the ability to set your admin security. You also have spanning tree capabilities. So you can select a device and then set its spanning tree priority. So you can see that one's 3200. That one's my root. That's 4000. And then you can see I've got my next hop, which is 8000. So I'm setting my spanning tree priority on my switches. You then also have the ability to look at all the switch ports and configure them right from the router. So here's my switches. Here's my configuration. And you can see right here, these are set trunk. I did a YouTube video where I demonstrated how to change these. And so I've got my trunk ports there. This is a 24 port switch, and you can see that it came online. I can then click edit and manipulate these. I can select multiple ports. And then I can configure various settings. You can see, so I can set the, I can enable PoE. I can disable the ports if I want to. I can set the port type. So I can set it as a trunk, all custom or just a specific network. I can set it to access and configure those. So if I just want to set those access untagged or access VLAN 1, I can do that. I can also enable or disable spanning tree on those ports. And so you can manage these ports very easily right within the router. And so they've made it a really nice way that if you don't like in control or don't want to have a cloud connectivity here, you can ingest these switches and use them without the cloud. And I love that Peplink is honoring this idea that you don't have to be connected to the cloud to use our hardware or software. And that to me is just, it just keeps with that mission that they've had where we're accomplishing your mission and staying connected no matter what.
Yeah, not everybody is able to use a cloud-based solution, right? That's just, for some, private 5G is one example. Just a lot of government applications are other examples. They don't want internet access. They want upstream data. They want bonding. They want all these other things, but they won't take a cloud-based solution. And so it's not one or the other for us, right? A lot of companies force people into a cloud subscription model because that's just their, that's their best idea of innovation, right? But for us, we want the features there. We want to support both scenarios. And we think our cloud is good enough that the people that like the cloud will value it and keep subscribing. We don't need to force them to do that. The cloud is great and it helps them and it saves them money. And so we think both can coexist here. And yeah, we continue to do that in our products and how you can manage them.
And you can see here, I got control of status. And so I select this switch, and then I can see these devices. So I can actually see the interface. I can see what's connected and how they're established. And so you can see I'm auto negotiated, using very little data. I'm 8 watts of PoE on that port. And so you're able to see the status and what's happening on these switches. So kind of nice. Gives you the ability to see these switches remotely via in control or via the controller here, and manage your switches very, very easily. And so I just think it's such a cool. I just think it's such a cool feature. I love this. Okay. Next, additional updates in 5.2. Enhanced Starlink support. We launched Starlink support 8.3 firmware, I believe. And we keep improving on that relationship. I mean, Peplink and Starlink have a really good relationship, with bonding and multi-WAN load balancing and the ability to manage these devices. And so we're constantly improving. One of the things that we've done now is we've enhanced Starlink support by adding logs, logging the Starlink Dish ID and software version in the event log. So now your Starlink reboots and updates the firmware and something doesn't work, you can go to the event log and go, oh, my Starlink updated, and you can actually see the Dish ID and the software version now. So we're logging that. We also official support for Starlink over USB WAN, and so we've added the ability to connect the Starlink into the USB WAN, which is kind of a cool additional feature there. And so just two new features, not anything super major, but just improvements. We've also added more accurate WAN latency detection. This is using WAN active DNS hosts for improved real-time monitoring. So we've had a couple customers that they love that with the WAN analysis tool and WAN latency monitoring. And so we've added improvements to that. We've also added some web UI enhancements, so new Ethernet port status page for enhanced network visibility, which I sort of just demonstrated to you. So just adding more port visibility so you can see what's connected. And I'll tell you, if you're an IT and I do a lot of remote support. I'm sitting at NAB providing support to customers all over the world, and a lot of times people plug stuff in wrong, and being able to pull up the router and see where it's plugged in. Like I did a job where I said, hey, plug into LAN 1. Well, they connect into WAN 1. And like, oh, I'm not getting an IP address. And I pulled up the port status page, saw that it was plugged into WAN, was said, hey, can you unplug that and move it over to LAN 1? And they unplugged it and moved over to LAN 1, and their network started working. So where they thought the router was bad and not giving out DHCP, it was actually just plugged into the wrong port. And because I have that visibility in the router's UI and in control, I'm able to provide that support. And so it's a simple little thing, but when you're providing tech support to dozens or thousands of people, it makes a big deal. Just that simplicity and extra care that Peplink puts into how we can use the environment. And then finally, SpeedFusion VPN enhancement. So we're constantly improving SpeedFusion based on feedback and analysis from different and real world scenarios that we discover. And so pretty much every firmware update includes some level of SpeedFusion improvement. And so we're optimizing packet handling for greater efficiency and enhanced WAN priority management for seamless performance. And so just helping make it even better. If it wasn't already good, it's now just a little bit better. And so kind of fun aspect there. And then we now have Starlink Enterprise Kit. So Peplink is a Starlink partner, technology partner, and we now have access to the Enterprise Kits, which are lower cost, high performance, lower power draws than the high performance dishes. Now, I will say it does not replace flat high performance. I think those things are incredibly powerful route dishes. However, it gives access to more markets, right? A lot of people don't want to spend $2,500 on a flat high performance, and so it gives us some lower cost enterprise dishes that pair really nicely with the lower cost enterprise routers like the B1 or even the 310 5G or something like that. And so we can now scale and pair routers better. And so pretty excited to announce that we have the enterprise kits. And if you are a Peplink partner, you can order those through distribution or through Peplink ASP program. And if you're a customer, reach out to your partner and we can help you get those set up. And so no matter how that works, we have the access to those dishes now. Travis, you might have more insight into this program as well. I mean, I know you're dealing with Starlink all the time. So
yeah, it's been evolving. I mean, it's just this program has been so successful. We're just so excited with how well this has gone already. And you've been a big part of this, but so many other partners. It's been a really active program, and just like we've talked about with other things, as soon as we get something off the ground, there's improvements that everybody wants, and this was the biggest one that everybody wanted. And so it's taken a little while for us to get that momentum and get that critical mass with our reseller community, but again, Starlink is impressed with what this program has been able to achieve as well. And so that's opening more doors for us to have access to these types of things. And so this is just one more enhancement that we can see now, but more improvements on the program to come. It's a huge source of excitement for us, and I think it makes sense, right? It's a brand new WAN option that's really turned into a great solution for achieving those missions that need another option out there.
exactly. And yeah, it's amazing. I'm going to answer a few questions now. We do have a little bit of time here, so we'll go through your questions. Bruce asked a question about in control. Bruce, you can talk about that offline if you'd like. You can email Travis@peplink.com or Peter@westnetworks.com, and be more than happy to talk to you about that. USB connections. Can the Max VR2 be connected via USB? So, and Travis, you might be able to speak more to this. Milan asked if connecting a USB to an iPhone. I have not been able to successfully USB tether an iPhone. I tether Androids very easily. Is there a technical limitation? I'm not a huge iPhone fan. I apologize. I love my Pixel and my Samsung. But I don't know if you have more insight into that, because I can't speak to the iPhone tethering, or if there's like a hardware limitation or if it's a driver issue. Or
I think it's more driver and licensing related. I think Apple's more strict on how they expose that tethering connection, and so it's I wouldn't call it proprietary, but I think there's a gatekeeper on that
okay,
capability. And so I know it's something we've had some more requests recently to enable, and so we have looked at that again, and so we'll see if there's more possibilities there. But yeah, right now it does not work.
Yeah, and my understanding is that just a Wi-Fi hotspot, and use the Wi-Fi WAN on 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz, depending on what you're connecting on your client, and then basically establish that to your iPhone. I will say, like, I mean, if you have a Samsung S25 Ultra or S24, whatever the newest one is, with the millimeter wave and some high throughput, you can tether that to your VR2 or your HC4, and it's pretty nice to be able to have that third or fifth WAN. And especially if you're in like a venue like this that I'm in, I'm getting 1.3 gigabits on millimeter wave on my Pixel Fold, and so I can USB tether that right into my HD4 and add a little bit more oomph if I needed it. Now I'll say I'm running 6 5Gs and it's working just fine, but if I needed more oomph, I could.
Yep.
But yeah, I think there's
millimeter wave access is a great example where the tethering pays off in unique ways, and it's not as common to find that spectrum out there, but the phones have the newest generation chipsets always and forever, and so that's the best way to get access to that millimeter wave connection.
Exactly. Somebody asked when the local management's available. It'll be in a future firmware. We're trying to build out the full enterprise feature set. And there's a lot of I mean, as Peplink has grown, the feature requests have gotten pretty high. And so given that we have in control and the switch manager now, we're really focusing on getting all the features activated, and then we'll build the UI to fit the features. But we're really trying to get the features solidified before, that way we're not trying to like reinvent the UI every time we add a feature. So it's getting the features that the customers need, getting those in control and on the switch platform that we do have, that it allows you that native local access with the switch controller, and then we'll release the UI. And I'm not speaking for Peplink in that aspect, but trying to offer some clarity on that. It's really about getting these enterprise features solidified.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that, using the switch controller and in control lets us move quicker instead of focusing on building yet another product's UI. It lets us move faster on those features first, like you said, Peter. And I think we've walked that line well with that switch controller, and still enabling that local management experience and moving as quick as we can at the same time. But yeah, I don't know when that local UI experience will come, but that, like you said, will be a future firmware update.
And somebody asked about hardened switches or industrial switches. I don't know if, I can't speak for Peplink. I don't know if we'll have that product, mostly because of the market that's there for it. So we'd have to, see what's available. Right now, we're really excited about the switches we do have, and trying to get those, adding that ecosystem and building up that feature set. And so I think as we build that out and the switches become more popular again, we can talk about, different hardware platforms for like specific industrial use cases. And look, Travis, you might be able to speak more to that, but I think right now it's really about trying to get that enterprise feature set up and running for these switches. There are a lot of switch vendors out there that do really niche things, and you can always VLAN or trunk that up into the Peplink environment and manage with InTouch, which I do all the time. So InTouch allows us to manage, just any platform you want. And so the ability to really focus on the feature sets and defining what that is for our customers is, I think, a really high priority right now.
Yeah, there's a tricky line for us to walk in terms of, a lot of the switches right now that we've got are more, I would say, generalized switches, right? They've got pretty standard interface mixes compared to other enterprise switches. And that's because we all use contract manufacturers, right? We're all using similar upstream providers to make these products. And so these are easier to get to market quickly and more affordably. And the more customized hardware, like you're talking about, that have more unique mounts, more unique power input output requirement, features, those will take more time, but those are, items that we definitely see on the horizon as well. But yeah, it's this dance of getting stuff out fast and then filling in the gaps after we've done the first wave of those. And so again, I don't have an exact date there, but we hear you for sure.
Yeah. And Ricardo, you asked about a voice VLAN feature. I know COS and QoS is coming. The auto VLAN, we didn't have that in the old switches either. I mean, and I do a lot of voice. The ability to use in control to create VLANs is very, makes it really nice. And so I know that some less cloud focused or less centralized management switches, they do have that auto VLAN. I know Netgear has that for one. But we've deployed a lot of VLANs and enterprise networks, and the voice VLAN feature is, I don't think, not saying it's not important, but it's in an enterprise network, we can build a voice VLAN, set up VLAN 2 and then add COS and QoS and DSCP tagging that really makes it incredibly powerful and scalable. And so it's definitely, we can add that to the feature request list and just put it on the list of features. But I've seen a lot of our enterprise networks, which is, that the ability to customize the ports and the VLANs seems to be really, really important. And it's something that's of a high focus right now. So getting the QoS, the COS, the DSCP tagging, the ability to manage those VLANs and get them set up is there. So we don't have the auto voice VLAN feature, but you can definitely create a voice VLAN within the Peplink ecosystem. And we've had great success with that on very large deployments. Let's see here. Can we upgrade? The best way to get we were asked if you the latest catalog, peplink.com. I mean, peplink.com, they're really good at keeping their product lists, their products advertised there. When they go live, and they usually build a launch page for them. Like the B5000 is getting a launch page that's coming out here. Switches are getting a launch page that's coming out. And so I would definitely, stay on peplink.com and forum.peplink.com. They really, you could go and look at product announcements and hardware announcements there as well.
Yeah, and I just put a link in there too to our product landing page, which has a really nice consolidated kind of selector, so you can map to the different product categories really quickly and find those. And then, yeah, the latest models of any of those will be included under there.
That's a way to do it. Tim asked about 90 watt. Tim, if you email me, I'll get you the exact specs. I got excited about PoE BT and did not research the exact wattage. I can pull up the data sheet and send it to you. So Tim, if you send me an email, I'll send you that. Peter@westnetworks.com.
It is type 4. I know that. I can't remember what the
yeah. I don't know the exact wattage. I know it's PoE plus BT type 4. So we just need to check the data sheet. So Brian asked, we're in 8.5.2 RC1 right now. RC2 is coming out, and we believe that's going to be the last RC before GA. So I would expect GA in a few weeks. And if you just monitor my LinkedIn, I'll be announcing RC2 here as soon as it drops, and I'll also announce GA. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll announce that for you pretty easily. Just search, find me at Peter West. And anytime we do release new firmware, I try to do like a highlight post where I highlight the post, link to the full data sheet for it, and send you a link to the details. The video, we always record these videos. So if you subscribe, somebody asked if we'll be providing a deck. The deck won't be provided, but the video will, and it includes the deck. So these slides will be part of the video that will go on YouTube, Peplink University, under Peplink's YouTube channel. Let's see here, Java system. Start Pacific lights. Control 2 license to have access to switch controller feature. Okay, so that was a really good one. Emmanuel said, well, I need an in-control 2 license to have access to the switch control feature. The answer is no. That's the whole idea behind it. So peplink.com support, you can download firmware. So once 8.52.2 goes GA, you'll be able to download that 5.2 GA firmware offline, load it onto your router, and turn on the switch controller feature, and you will be able to manage. So the whole idea of the switch controller is you don't have to have in control to manage it. And so that's going to give you that offline capability to manage not only your switches, but your routers and your APs. So the routers become almost like an SDN, right? I mean, it's really software-defined networking at its core. And if you notice, I'm using a transit to do that. I'm not using a B5000 or a 2500 EC. I'm using a nice, simple transit router with the AP controller and a switch controller. And I did that intentionally to show the power and capability of the switch controller hardware, or software, I should say. Millimeter wave, someone asked if millimeter wave will be on the roadmap. We've been trying. Let me just back up on that a little bit. Most millimeter wave right now is running on X55. And the biggest problem that we have, because we like staying up with the latest technology, is that we have, X70, we have X65, X62, X72, X75, X85 has already been announced. And most of these do not have carrier certification for millimeter wave. And so we're struggling with, if you build a millimeter wave router, we have to go X55. I had a conversation with T-Mobile last night where I was like, hey guys, you want me to build a millimeter wave router? Give me a millimeter wave chipset that's recent and certified on your network. And so, if you're a carrier on this call, help us. We would love to build a millimeter wave router. We just don't want to go back in time. And so we don't want to degrade the SA, which is far more popular and scalable than millimeter wave, in exchange for a lesser chipset. So we need a chipset that's certified by the carriers and modern. And Travis, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not speaking for Peplink at all. This is my interpretation of this. But my understanding is that the millimeter wave is really difficult because we need a chipset that's compatible with our motherboards and our chips that is carrier certified, and we can't get one that's modern.
That's 100% right. Yeah, the
Okay.
chipsets and modules available to the router market that support millimeter wave are very old generation. They do not pair well with standalone 5G. They are a kind of a bolt-on old solution. And so, yeah, I think in the next year we will have more modern chipsets available to us. But like you said, then the carrier certification side comes into play as well. So I think that's something we will start to see unlock here. But to explain why we just still don't have it, it's because, like you said, we're not willing to go back in time and use those old chipsets, and we want something modern. So yeah, I 100% agree with you, Peter.
Yeah. Marvin asked if he said, yeah, hey, I have a Balance 1350. Is 8.5.2 compatible? The 1350 is one of the longest running laptop routers we have. So check your hardware version against peplink.com. And if you Google or Bing or whatever you want to use, but if you search Peplink beta firmware, you can go to the Peplink beta page and then read the release notes and make sure it's compatible. And you can also check your hardware version. So with the 1350, the HD4, some of our really long running routers like the 380, you'll see release notes where they'll say, hey, the 380 hardware 1 is no longer supported. So if you have a 1350 that's within the last decade, it would probably work just fine. If you have a 1350 that's hardware 1, it might not work. I haven't read the data sheet for the 1350 specifically, but yeah, just check the data sheet and check the compatibility against your specific hardware version. The other thing is, it won't let you install if it doesn't anyway. So if you do try, just it'll say no. It's not going to brick your device. But don't run that in production. It's still beta. It's still RC. So don't install in production. Run it in a lab. See if we can enable. Just if it's not related. What about the 8.1 gear the switches? All of the old switches, I believe. Peter asked, what about the old the 8.1 gigabit switches? We are in a life cycle transition state on there. Travis might be able to speak better for this, but my understanding is that switch platform is end of life. I don't want to say that word, but that's my understanding. Travis, I don't know if you want to better answer that with the original 8 port, 16 port.
Yeah, a lot of this kind of comes back to those component shortages. We saw this kind of crunch a year or two ago in the industry in general. And so it's, I think, another side product of that.
Yeah. We just ran, like, there's the chip shortages and availability. And if you ever follow the transit series, we went through like 4 different transit routers during that time as well, because we just couldn't get the chips. And so the switches unfortunately fell victim to that platform, to that issue. And so we're really excited to announce the new switches. And we'll have, I believe there are more really cool switches coming. But I don't want to break, I don't want to ruin what's currently, the excitement around what's currently there is I think more important. And the important thing is we now have switches again. And being someone that really lives in this ecosystem, to be able to have these switches is critical. And so I'm really excited that Peplink has seen the value of the switches and is progressing. And so, if you want to see more switches, start adopting the switches, right? I mean, let's show Peplink. I mean, as a community, let's show Peplink. We thank them very much for making switches, because it makes a difference, like, right? I mean, any business needs to make a decision on where that value is and what's going to generate growth And so I am a firm believer of SDN and the switch architecture and the idea that Peplink is bringing to simplify network deployments and cloud focused economy there. And so the ability to use these switches and have high performance in enterprise switches is going to be really important for that growth. And so and I think that if as a community we support that, we'll see even more switches coming, just like we do with hardware platforms, right? And there's like 7 DR1s, right? And it's because they support different verticals, but the business model is there. It supports the sales. And so, as a community, we need to make sure that we're supporting that as well and helping Peplink with that. So my 2 cents, my little soapbox there, but um, thank you everybody so much. We went a little bit over, but thank you so much for entertaining us on this journey and letting me share these new announcements. I am at NAB live, so if you're over in Vegas at NAB, stop by and say hi, and you can touch and play with these routers and switches. Once again, 8.5.2 is beta. Do not install in a production environment. Run it in your lab. Run it on your test environment. But wait for GA to come out. And then at scale too, there's a lot of new features like the switch controller. So understand that impact before deploying live and then creating a support ticket that your network isn't functioning anymore. So I'm a big proponent of lab environments and learning. And so I will encourage you as well to build your lab and play and learn with all these new features. Thank you so much, Travis. As always, it's been a fun webinar series. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great show, Peter.
Have a good one.
Bye.